world, this time by winning the NBA draft lottery just months after trading away Luka Doncic. Dallas now has the opportunity to draft a potential new face of the franchise in Cooper Flagg. So the Mavs won that lottery with a 1.8% chance to win. That's the fourth lowest odds to win the lottery since '85, which is when the lottery began. Dallas jumped 10 spots to win it, the biggest jump by any team since the NBA changed that format in 2019. Brian Windhorst, all I could think about was you last night, my friend. So tell me this. What did you think when that went down?
You know, it's been an unbelievable year, an unbelievable story for the Mavericks. And also, by the way, for the Spurs, who've had an incredible up and down year with Greg Popovich and Victor Wembanyama. Their setbacks, they get a Rookie of the Year, and then they get in the top two. Like the Spurs, the book on the year in Spurs is almost as fascinating as the book on the year in Dallas. The book, the text this year is crazy. I know that there were people who were stunned and shocked by this, and I would say that's why they call it a lottery. It's a lottery because you get these kind of results like that. And the percentage chance is obviously very low, but the percentage chance for the teams to win who had the highest percent, 14%, that's very low. Nobody has a great chance. That's why you go through this. And so now the big thing in the league, Molly, that lit up my phone and I think was the big question across the entire NBA last night is, what do the Mavericks do? What do the Mavericks do here? And I'm sure the Mavericks have put some thought into it, but I'm sure they didn't even allow themselves to dream. And now they work up with a whole different set of circumstances. And when you look at what happened in the NBA yesterday, May 12th, 2020, momentous days when it comes to changing things in the NBA, because you have this lottery. You have Giannis Antetokounmpo, with Sham's report about Giannis, doing what a lot of people were suspecting that he may do, which is look at other options. And then the Boston Celtics with this potentially devastating injury to Jason Tatum. A lot of fortunes changed yesterday, and the Mavericks definitely could be one of them. Absolutely.
Wendy, would you rather see the Mavs draft Cooper Flagg or trade for Giannis?
Do you think that a franchise could trade Luka Doncic and Cooper Flagg in the same calendar year? That is the question people were asking last night. Honestly, I cannot see how they could trade him. And I'm going to give a technical answer. I will listen to the two pro athletes here in a second, but I'm going to give a technical answer as to why I believe that. And this is not a fun answer, but this is a reality in the modern NBA. In the modern NBA, it is very dangerous for your team to have three big salaries. In the apron era, and this is what I'm saying, I can feel people going, I don't want to talk about aprons, and I get it. But in the apron era, to have three big salaries on your team, it handcuffs you. And it means that all three of those guys got to be studs. And I offer you no more than the Phoenix Suns, who are the biggest culprits on this. They invested humongously in Bradley Beal, and Bradley Beal has not been performing like an all-star and has handcuffed their team. If you have Anthony Davis and you have Kyrie Irving, who can be a free agent this summer, and I expect will get a big contract if he opts out. But even if he doesn't opt out, it's a big contract. If you then trade for Giannis, if you use Cooper Flagg as your centerpiece of your trade for Giannis, and you have three salaries, it's not a way to build a team in 2025. I'm sorry, especially when those three guys are in their 30s. It's just not advisable. So the idea that you could have a potential impact young player in Cooper Flagg for the next 4 years on a rookie contract, a rookie scale contract, in addition to those two players, just team building wise, regardless of what you think Cooper Flagg's ceiling is, regardless of what you look at two-time MVP Giannis Antetokounmpo, from a team building standpoint, I think you have to take the 19-year-old on the cheaper contract and hope that he turns into a stud.
Wendy, is there any world, and I get what the repercussions of this could be, but we'll flow it out there for the sake of having, these are the type of conversations that we always have collectively, frankly, between friends. Is there any world that you can imagine that if you are able to get a centerpiece like Giannis for a Cooper Flagg, what the asset of Anthony Davis could be on the market and what you could get in return for that if you are Nico Harrison? I'm just throwing it out there because it's fascinating. Giannis, at his age, his durability, how he plays, The numbers are MVP-like numbers, right? If you can have that for another 4 to 5 years at that level, knowing AD's injury history, but still his talent, what you can get in return for that could be, value to replace and still give you the size and the length and still be one of those great defensive teams in the Western Conference for the next 3 to 4 years.
And potentially get younger to match Cooper Flagg's timeline. The idea of trading Anthony Davis. Yeah. So, look, I don't know what Kyrie Irving is going to look like coming off of this injury in 7 or 8 months. So that's an uncertain thing. But your timeline now potentially changes. Also, it depends on what the Mavericks' evaluation of Cooper Flagg is. Like, if the Mavericks look at Cooper Flagg as a guy who can be a top 7 player in the league by year 4, that's one thing. And certainly you're going to say, well, if that's the case, if that's who we think he is, then maybe we should make decisions that put us in good position to go for year 3 or 4. And you may say, well, wait a minute, the Mavericks have been all in on trying to win for the next couple of years. Well, the Mavericks world just changed. All of their planning just changed. Just like the Lakers' planning changed when they traded for a 26-year-old in his prime in Luka versus having a guy in his 40s and a guy in his 30s with Anthony Davis. So if you evaluate Cooper Flagg to be that, if you're the Mavericks, you may have to look at something like that. If you evaluate Cooper Flagg as a guy who may not be a top 6 or 7 player, but may be a top 15, 18 player, and that to win the championship, you're going to need another top 10 player or top 15 player to be alongside him, that may change your arithmetic. I'm not a development expert. I'm not a scout. I'm not going to do that, but that's part of the conversation the Mavericks are going to have. But then also, when we look at what these trades are, because to me, I think the Spurs situation is more fascinating, or at least as fascinating as the Mavericks, because the Spurs have a 21-year-old who's a potential MVP. They have a 20-year-old who just won Rookie of the Year. They have a guy in his mid-20s in De'Aaron Fox. Like the idea that you could add a guy like Giannis to that group is fascinating. So they've got to have their own set of thing. I think the number 2 pick is just as important. But before we debate on 1 versus 2 and whether either of those teams should cash in and go for Giannis, remember Giannis gets agency here. This is going to be Giannis's situation. He does have 2 years on his contract, and if he elects to be traded, which is not a guarantee, I suspect he's going to do that, but it's not a guarantee, he is going to get to say, I would rather play here or here. And so part of this, he might not want to be in Dallas. He may have just seen what they did with Luka and say, I don't want to do that. I saw how they treated this guy, and I don't want to do that. Or he may see, I'm going to come in and be alongside Kyrie and be alongside AD, and I think that's perfect for me. Let's do it. But assuming that, there's going to take a lot of alignment to figure out whether something like this is possible.
Hey, Wendy, great point about Phoenix, but I will say I was a part of a team that had 3 pretty big contracts.
But not in the aprons. Not in the aprons, UD.
You're right.
Different. I know. You're right, but not in the aprons.
Yeah, I agree.
You wouldn't have been able to be on that team because they wouldn't have had the ability to keep you and Mike Miller. You would have been gone.
Well, I was about to be gone anyway, if you remember the story. So
I know.
Thank God for some guys taking less money. But I agree 1,000% with the things that you're saying. But I also just come from a situation where if you have a chance to get a player that is guaranteed, now Cooper Flagg, as great as he might be, he is not guaranteed. Giannis is guaranteed. And at 30, he is in his prime. And we're talking about 2 MVPs.